Hello. How is everyone? It's good to see you here. We'll give it just a second before I start. It just now turned 7 o'clock. So. Hey, Catherine. Hi, Nina. Hi, Marianne. Dee, Stephen. It's good to see you all. I'm good. I'm good. I'm a little tired. It's been a long week already, but it's fine. Well, let's go ahead and start, shall we? Start with the verse of the Kesa. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Got to have atonement. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought. Now I atone for it all. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought. Now I atone for it all. The fragrance of this incense invites the awakened mind to be present with us now. The fragrance of this incense fills our room, protects and guards our minds from wrong thinking. The fragrance of this incense unites us with precepts, concentration, and insight. We offer it for all beings. Homage to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I shall become one with the Buddha. I resolve that I shall each day follow the way of life he laid down for us to walk and awaken to his supreme wisdom. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I shall become one with the Dharma. The gates of Dharma are manifold. I vow to enter them all. The goal of wisdom is ever beyond. I shall attain it. I go to the Sangha for guidance. I shall become one with the Sangha. In the spirit of universal fellowship and as a member of the Sangha, I pledge myself to strive for the enlightenment of all beings. Pardon me. The Metta Sutta. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Wishing in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upward to the skies and downward to the depths, outward and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, sitting or lying down, free from drowsiness, one should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. By not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into the world of suffering. May I be happy and well. May no harm come to me. May I learn compassion. May all my friends, family, and those I love be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those troubled in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those who have hurt me in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those who I have hurt in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all my enemies be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all living beings be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. So we'll do a guided meditation tonight. Probably Tonglen. 20 minutes. There we go. So if you prefer to mute the sound and meditate without listening to me or hearing Lola snore, she's right over there. She's snoring loudly. It's not me snoring, it's the dog, promise. Then from the time I ring the bell to the end, it'll be 20 minutes. Take a few deep breaths and just kind of focus on letting your abdominals be nice and relaxed, your belly soft so your lungs can fill and empty completely. Chest expand and contract naturally but deeply. And then just breathe naturally, let your breath just settle down. Nice calm breaths. No need to breathe any special way, but be aware of your breath. When you're breathing in, know that you're breathing in. Breathing out, know that you're breathing out. So when you do Tonglen, there's a couple of ways you can do this depending on what tradition you're following. You can experiment with both. You can either start by imagining someone that you want to help, or you can start by thinking about yourself. And we'll do that tonight. So think of yourself and of some of the kinds of stresses and difficulties and sufferings you experience. So maybe things are going well, but we all have the suffering that comes with the human body, growing older, getting sick. And so you can think of that or think of things that you're specifically dealing with right now. And we're going to transform suffering with compassion. And we'll start with compassion for ourselves. So you can imagine that you're breathing in these difficulties, taking them into your heart. And with the compassion of your heart, transforming them to freedom from suffering. If you like to visualize, you can imagine them as dark clouds. And that as you breathe them in, your heart, your mind of enlightenment, the warmth and light of your heart causes them to dissolve. As you generate the thought, may I be free from suffering. May I be free from animosity. May I be free from stress and affliction. And so you can take a few moments just to visualize your sufferings and send yourself the antidotes. So if you're anxious, breathe in that cloud and let your compassion transform it to comfort, calmness. If you're angry, send yourself forgiveness, friendship. And you can use the thought, may I be free from suffering. And then call to mind a loved one, your dearest loved one. And think of some of the forms of stresses, difficulties, discomforts that they experience. And let your compassion transform those. Receive them and transform them. So breathing in their physical unwellness, maybe, or their worries. Whatever you know they're dealing with or think they might be dealing with, take that into your heart and let the light and warmth of your compassion dissolve away those clouds. May they be free from suffering. May they be free from animosity. Free from stress and affliction. And think of a good friend and do the same process with them. Imagine they're close enough by that your compassion can touch them. That you can breathe in their clouds of suffering. Send them the light and warmth of your care and compassion. May they be free from suffering. May they be free from animosity. Free from stress and affliction. And now someone who's neutral, an acquaintance or someone that you know but you don't really have strong feelings toward one way or the other. Maybe you don't know what kind of difficulties they experience, but they know that, like yourself, like your loved one, like your friends, that their body is subject to growing older, becoming sick. They experience the suffering of being in situations they don't like, being separated from people in situations they do like. And that their mind has ways of engaging with things in a way that creates stress. Breathing in their dark clouds, sending them relief. May they be free from suffering. Free from stress and affliction. Free from animosity. And now an adversary. If there's somebody you're not getting along with, somebody who's creating some problems for you, somebody you just don't like being around, maybe you're one of the lucky people who doesn't have anyone like that in your life. But if you are, just imagine the kinds of suffering they experience. Just like yourself, your friends, your loved ones, your acquaintances. May they be free from suffering. May they be free from animosity. May they be free from stress and affliction. And when you're ready, do this for all beings, whatever beings there are, weak or strong, great or small. May they all be free from suffering. So, the ultimate way to free all beings from suffering is to become enlightened and become a Buddha so that you can help all beings awaken. If you're not ready for that, just resolve to meet the world with a little bit more compassion. Try to recognize the suffering that comes your way. Respond to it with kindness. May all beings be free from suffering. May all beings be free from animosity. May all beings be free from stress and affliction. The bell will ring twice to end the meditation. Before it does, you can stop the sending and receiving. Just kind of bring your attention to your heart. Just resting your awareness calmly there. Feeling that warmth, that compassion available whenever you need it. Just sit with the breath. Buddha nature pervades the whole universe, existing right here now, and offering flowers, candles, and incense, hearing the Dharma, and training the mind. Great merit is attained. We dedicate this merit to the great Master Shakyamuni Buddha, the all-pervading and everlasting three treasures, the 16 guardians and all protectors of their Dharma and their relations throughout space and time, to all ancestors of this Sangha and all beings in the Dharma world. May penetrating light dispel the darkness of ignorance. Let all karma be resolved and the mind flower bloom in eternal spring. May the Dharma body maintain strength and health, and years of life be lengthened for all teachers of this Sangha. May their vows be fully realized, and may they live in perfect peace with Buddha Dharma. We pray for those suffering from violence and those who grieve for them, for those living in oppression, for all who are imprisoned who should be free, for all refugees from violence, hunger, and catastrophe, man-made or natural. We pray for the health and well-being of those suffering from diseases of body, mind, or spirit, and those ministering to the sick. May they be serene through all their troubles, and may we realize the enlightened way together. Sabe sata sadahantu avera sukajivino katang punya phalang maiham sabe bhagi bhavantu te. May all beings always live happily, free from animosity. May all share the blessings that spring from the good we have done. So I see some comments came in during the meditation. I'll work my way from the bottom up. Nina, you're welcome. You know, we're a valued member of our community. Well, you all are, but it's always so nice to see that you're here, and I'm glad that what I do is helpful to you. And welcome home, Ellen. glad you made it. And do I have a weekend? Yeah, one. No, I'm kidding. So theoretically, if I could probably arrange to have Saturdays off some of the time, but I don't. Almost always I end up on Saturday needing to get caught up on something, and frequently, kind of depending on what I'm doing on Sunday, where I'm going to be. I'm always, even if I'm talking about something that I've talked about before, I'll at least look over outlines. And the talks that I give at White Sands, I try to send them a draft that's pretty close to what I'm going to say before I say it, because the Vietnamese people like to read it first, and they like to be, it helps them understand with comprehension. So I probably drafted out a little bit more than I would otherwise. If I'm speaking to a UU church, I tend to make those pretty tight because they have to fit into a very specific amount of time. So I'm usually still working on those on Saturday. But about, I do get some total weekends now and then, because I won't have any place to be, anything to talk about. And so I can kind of take it easy. The thing is, I like what I do, and yes, it's work and it can be stressful and all that kind of stuff. But, so it's not like having a day of rest, but, it's not, it could be a heck of a lot worse. And I do have very stressful weeks sometimes, being a university chaplain during a global pandemic. It's not easy, but I can tell you, I belong to some chaplains groups online and stuff like that. So I correspond with chaplains from different areas, and I sure wouldn't want to be a hospital chaplain right now. And I have a huge amount of admiration and gratitude to the people who do, like the palliative care chaplains. Those are people who take care of people who are seriously ill, and all they can do for them is try to make them comfortable. And hospice chaplains, same thing. It's all they can do is try to make the people comfortable. And I know that's It's a struggle for me when uh, when we have students who have loved ones die, and I have or we're in the hospital, and I reach out to them and make sure they know that we're there and see if there's anything we can do for them and stuff. And if you get a whole lot of that, which we have this year, it's a lot, really. It's emotional, it's stressful. So I can't imagine what it must be like in hospitals right now. And I didn't come on here tonight to bum everybody out, but I have friends who are healthcare people, uh, and I know that they're really stretched then. So I say all this: do everything you can to keep yourself healthy, because you're not just doing yourself a favor, but a lot of other people a favor if you manage to not get sick. I've been, working on the Diamond Sutra, and the section that's coming up, it talks about cultivating virtues, and it only goes into this. The whole Diamond Sutra only goes into any depth. It's not really about cultivating virtues, but it mentions this, and but it only goes into very much on a couple of them. And the first one, which is the first, if you look at the list of 6 perfections in Mahayana Buddhism, the first one is dana. And it's also, if you look at the 10 perfections in Theravada Buddhism, the first one is dana, D-A-N-A, generosity, charity, giving. It's really developing a giving attitude, generosity of spirit. And anyway, they talk about the 4 types of generosity. And the first one is the first one that's obvious. A tsunami happens somewhere, people write a check. And that's good. And that's a very important thing to do. It's good for you spiritually. It's good for the world, when people who have give to those who need and that sort of thing. But there's other forms of generosity also. And there's generosity of the Dharma. There's giving the Dharma. So giving a Dharma talk. And there's, supporting those that do good. And then there's giving freedom from fear. So what does that mean? Well, that means if you're, would you take the 5 precepts, if you take the traditional 5 precepts in most of Buddhism, some of them have more. Zen has more. But if you take the basic 5 precepts, not to kill, not to steal, not to engage in harmful sexual activity, not to engage in harmful speech, and not to use alcohol, and to the extent that you forget the other 4, then you're giving people freedom from fear of you doing any of those harmful things to them. And that's a gift. So your virtue, your restraint, is also a gift. And I'm thinking about things like wearing a mask right now, and trying to lay low, and social distancing, and all of getting vaccinated, all those things, really giving gifts to those around you. If you're keeping yourself healthy, then you're also helping them stay healthy. So, anyway, that's not really what I planned to talk about tonight. But since the subject came up, yes, I'm well, very grateful to be well. So, yeah. And that's actually what I was going to talk about tonight a little bit, was the idea of perspective. So, I got this book, Book of Joy, by the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu. I've talked about it a little bit. And the second half of it, or the second part, the chunk of it, is about the pillars of joy. And it happens that the pillars of joy, the 8 pillars of joy, as they lay out here, corresponds very closely to things that you encounter in Buddhism, like the 7 factors of enlightenment and the 5 spiritual powers, and that kind of stuff. Um, and so the first pillar, and things that aren't enumerated necessarily in, Buddhism is big on talking about things in numbers: the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, the 7 factors of awakening, the 4 jhanas, or the 8 jhanas, depending on what you're reading about, and so on. Everything's the triple gem. I mean, everything's in numbers. But there are things that don't kind of fit necessarily in those that also get alluded to in here. So I'm going to talk about some of these things over the course of time. I've been doing a little bit of it already. And this one is on the first pillar is on perspective. So I'll tell you what the Dalai Lama said about perspective. He said, for every event in life, there are many different angles. When you look at the same event from a wider perspective, your sense of worry and anxiety reduces and you have greater joy. And then the commentator says the Dalai Lama had discussed the importance of a wider perspective when he was telling us about how he was able to see the calamity of his losing his country as an opportunity. It was jaw-dropping to hear him reframe more positively the last half-century of exile. He had been able to see not only what he had lost, but also what he had gained. Wider contact, new relationships, less formality, more freedom to discover the world and learn from others. He had concluded, so therefore, if you look from one angle, you feel, oh, how bad, how sad. But if you look from another angle at that same tragedy, that same event, you see that it gives me new opportunities. So, we talked, those of you who've done Nikon with me, we've talked about that very directly, that idea that if you look within the context of a bad thing that's happened, at what good things that also happened, it can really change your experience of the event. And for me personally, one it was an event that I didn't even realize it at the time. Well, I kind of did. At the time, I was very caught up in dealing with this event. Looking back, I see that it really did do a lot to change the way I saw the world, which is the auto accident that I had that left me, with a banged up knee and all of that. And I've told this story before, but maybe some of you haven't heard it. Those of you who have, I'm getting old, I repeat myself, deal with it. But in 2000, like early 2000, January 2000, I was in an auto accident that banged me up real bad. I had a couple of broken ribs, collapsed lung, head injury. I had some stuff in my neck and back that fortunately turned out not to be too serious, but still gives me a little trouble. And then the most major thing in terms of lasting results was it just smashed my right knee. And so, yeah, my leg doesn't fit together right, and I still walk funny. And certain things always hurt and always hurt. And so when I look at that one way, and I see that, okay, I was in this wreck that did all this damage to my body. I nearly died. In fact, I was in and out of consciousness, and at one point, I was lying on the operating table down at the hospital in Orlando, because this had happened in Castleberry, but the nearest major trauma center was what was then Orlando Regional Medical Center. And I'm lying on the table, and I kind of come to, and the doctor's saying something to me, and I said, so what do you think? Am I going to make it? And he goes, well, we're trying to save you. I need you to try to stay conscious, because I'm afraid if you keep losing consciousness, we're going to lose you. So it's kind of a wake up call. You know what I mean? And so I look at that and go, wow, it was a terrible day. It was a terrible thing that happened. I totaled my car. I almost died. But then, you look at it another way. And there were people who, saw this and called for help right away. 911 worked, all kinds of people showed up and cut me out of my car, carefully got me into an ambulance and transported me a long way down to Orlando. And then a whole team of people jumped in and saved my life. And the hospital chaplain showed up, asked me if he could do anything helpful. I had him call my mom. That's all I could think of for him to do. He said, "What can I do?" And I said, "Well, I'm not a Christian." He goes, "That's okay. Do you want me to call anybody for you or anything like that? Is anything like that?" So he called my mom. So a lot of people were very helpful to me, And so, yes, it was a terrible day and it was a great day. Somebody saved my life. That's pretty good, right? But most of the time, your perspective shift, I hope, will not be that dramatic. I hope none of you are going to wake up on, near death on a emergency room, operating room. But you still, if you look around at what else is going on, as outside, as Greg Creech puts it, in when he teaches working with attention in Japanese psychology, examine life outside the boundaries of your suffering. Okay, so you're suffering. What else is happening? And that's a really interesting thing. When you start doing that, and you can, it's really easy for the average human being, assuming that I'm an average human being. I don't think I'm particularly special in this way. To get, we tend to get hooked by the bad things that are going on. I think our brains are wired that way. And when we pay attention deliberately to what else is going on, it changes our experience of life. And so, so perspective. And, when the Dalai Lama talks about that, he's talking about losing his country. And then, it doesn't go into it here, he alludes to it here, that because of that, he brought Buddhism to thousands and thousands of people who would probably never have heard about it, never have heard of him. He would have been some obscure monk up in the mountains in the Himalayas with some mythology around him, but he wouldn't have taught any Buddhism to Westerners probably. He wouldn't have had any reason to, wouldn't have had much of an opportunity to. And so it is interesting when you look at that, if we take our practice seriously, there's nothing. Okay. I won't say nothing. I'm sure there are things that would be really difficult to do this with, but most of the things that happen to us in our life, we can use in our practice. Most of the suffering we experience, we can use really to get to know ourselves better and to live more authentically. Now, having said that, I know a lot of people are, this ongoing situation and everything is really challenging. And, I feel it too. My concentration and meditation hasn't been good for months and months and months, and so I have to do something a little bit differently than I would have before. And it's because you've got all this sort of background radiation, of stress happening all the time, probably. So, take a little extra me time. Look outside the boundaries of your suffering. If that means get outside and go for a walk in nature, get outside and go for a walk in nature. That's very restorative. And be aware of what's going on with you and your mind, and know where you're, when it's time to kind of back away from stuff and that sort of thing. So we all have to do that. So when you talk about, do I get a weekend? Fortunately, I live with a mental health professional, and I can say, when you notice I'm getting a little bit out there on the edge, would you just let me know so I'll back off a little bit? And she's good about doing that. So, and for me, an awful lot of it is just kind of managing what I do. But I'm in a very happy situation in that, I was not, one of those people who are so essential that they had to go in situations where infection risks were high early on. And, my job situation was fairly stable and things shifted fairly easily. So I'm doing fine. But thank you for asking. And I'm really glad, that we were able to figure out a way to continue to do this. I mean, uh, you know, I know that Google, I think it's Google that owns YouTube, right? I think it's Google. Um, I know that they're not in this for altruistic purposes. They're in this for the money. But I'm really glad they were here with YouTube so we could have live stream meetings. And I'm really glad that, Zoom ramped up its personnel and expanded and everything to handle it all so that we could do the Thursday night Dharma discussions. So yeah, that's life outside the boundaries of suffering. Is it, reframe this. Things, are better in a lot of ways. Anyway, so that's one of the pillars of joy, is to be able to look at life and kind of shift your attention. So a lot of shifts in attention, again, are more subtle. When we pay attention deliberately to what's going on right now, that tends to get us out of any loop of rumination, resentment, whatever is going on with us. Again, there's stuff that happens in the brain that has a big effect on how stressed out we feel. And one of the things that makes us feel less stressed out is just paying attention very deliberately. So which is what meditation is, basically, is paying attention deliberately to something, and sometimes, what your different different objects of meditation will give you a little bit different result, kind of depending on where you are in the practice and where you are during the course of the day and where you are in your life. But generally speaking, meditation is about paying attention deliberately. And when you're doing that, you're actually doing things that are healthier for your brain and all the nerves around your heart and all that kind of stuff. Actually makes you feel less stressed. So I know a lot of people these days are getting super, super busy. And so it suddenly becomes harder to take that time to sit and meditate. But it's good for you. So if you don't have as much time, that's okay, but try to get a little bit of time. And if it's even just paying attention to your breath for a minute, that's still healthy for you. That's still good for you. And you can do things like, some little mindfulness exercises that I've used with the students when I was teaching the seminar course on contemplative practices. One of them that a lot of people found very calming was look for the color blue. So the color blue is kind of calming, but the important thing is when you're looking for something specific like that, that's paying attention deliberately. And so as soon as you make that shift, I'm looking for blue, you kind of change what parts of your brain are reacting. And like I said, blue tends to be calming. It's also fairly easy to find. It's right up there. Usually you might have to go outside to see it or look out your window at least. But that's useful. Or just shift your attention to a feeling, something coming in through the sense doors. If you happen to be in a gray office, with red furniture or something like that, there's no blue in the room. Okay, well, what do your feet feel like on the floor? What does your backside feel like in your chair? What does the breath feel like coming in and out your nostrils? You don't have to close your eyes and meditate. Just be aware, what's this feeling? And again, you're paying attention deliberately, shifts you out of that cycle that's stressful. Anybody got any questions? Or comments? Anything you'd like me to respond to? Do you like this idea of me going through the, are you all asleep? Do you like the idea of me going through these eight pillars of joy? The next one is humility. It's not a particularly exciting topic either, but I'll talk about it anyway. So thank you all very much for being here. Welcome. Oh, good. Yeah, it's a great book. It's a great book. And some of these things, we can talk about a little bit more. I mean, they spend half a dozen pages on most of these topics. There's quite a bit, really, that we could talk about with any of those things that they never get around to touching on. But, it's good stuff, good practices. So thank you very much for being here. Those of you who will be here on Zoom tomorrow, I'll see you there. I'll be at White Sands Sunday. And so if not, I'll see you next Wednesday, if not before. Have a great night. I'm glad you were happy, Nina. That's a challenging situation. I know. I've had broken bones. It's not fun, but I'm glad that you were able to work it through, and I'm glad that you felt good that whole time. So yeah, good. And it's good to have you back with us. Very good to have you back with us. All right. I'm going to sign off now. Thank you all for being here, and I'll see you again soon.